And when you talk about virtue, because there's like virtues through this, there's virtues connected to some of the previous pieces that you've done as well. When you are speaking to this idea of humility, is the virtue humility, or is the virtue truth? Or what would you say is connected to like pride, humility? What's the virtue?
Well, each of the magi represents
A different,
infused virtue. So there's three virtues that God infuses into you: faith, hope, and love. Okay.
the greatest
So
of these is
you
love.
can always, right. And you can always pray for those three things because you're asking God to give you more of what he wants to give you.
Mm.
Right. But then there's sub virtues underneath that. Okay. So kindness and humility and, truthfulness or honesty.
Yeah.
These are all sub virtues of the other virtues. And what I did is I had to reorganize what each of the magi, the sub magi, had in terms of virtues, so that it would fit with classic theology around virtue.
So neat. It's so neat. And I think with my book title, it's like always becoming, right? And a lot of times we get to a place of like wisdom or influence might be a better word, because I think I'm always learning. I'm always evolving, even in my own knowledge base, and wisdom is surely from heaven. But the title always becoming is like grace upon grace, because we're all still navigating what it looks like and how to be like Christ. And so what like virtues would you say you're still, navigating, working on, or on the antithesis of that, which ones are you like, man, I got these ones down early and I would encourage them?
I don't think you ever have any of them down early because there's an infinite depth to each of the virtues.
Yeah.
Rigorous honesty. The longer you live, the more you find where you don't practice rigorous honesty. And it's almost like peeling an onion. You keep going deeper and deeper and deeper to each of the virtues. Kindness, how many times do you find that there are certain people still that are difficult to be kind to? And it's related to our past traumas, the things that we've experienced in our life, anchored emotions to certain types of people or certain types of behaviors that they have. And little by little, we can unfold that and go deeper and deeper into it.
I'll tell you a funny story about like wisdom connected to that. Is I was just on a writing retreat for my next solo publication coming out, and I like woke up. I hadn't even had my coffee yet, but I turned on like the bathroom light in the hotel that I was in, and I leaned forward and I saw, you can kind of still see them now, but like curly, like I saw my flyaways, and I saw this one that was just straight up, and it was white, and I was like, oh my. So I plucked it out, even though my mom has always told me, never, if you see a gray hair, never pluck it because 5 more will come. That's what, anyway, girls say that. I don't know if it's true or not. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my goodness, I have gray hair. This is nuts. Now, mind you, literally the day before I was reading 1 Kings all about Solomon and how Solomon prayed into wisdom. And I think that's what the Magi's are known for. They're known for their wisdom. And so I was praying and I was just like, Lord, like, give me a heart like Solomon. All I want is your wisdom. And he said, because you didn't, this is speaking to Solomon, because you didn't ask for money, because you didn't ask for all of these other things that all the kings have asked for, I'm going to give you all that and more. And so I go downstairs that specific day. This is the day before the gray hair pull, okay? I go downstairs and I see on the wall 2 placards, a husband and a wife, and I was specifically speaking to our wisdom as a couple, and their last names are Solomon. And I'm like, whoa, that's awesome. So I'm already sitting here. I got this gray hair in my hand. I'm like, okay, you're funny, God. And then I sit down with my coffee and my Bible, and I'm in Proverbs. And it literally, the very first thing from that Bible in a year, that specific day, says your gray hair is like a wisdom. It's like a crown of glory. And I'm like, what? So I literally like gave me the answer to what I was asking for. Like, I've given you a little measure of wisdom, just a little. Keep praying. There's more to come. But for now, just know that you're already wiser than you think, was kind of like that revelation that was cemented in that moment. Because I'm younger. And so I always have that imposter syndrome of like, well, Tamra, you don't know enough. You haven't lived enough. You don't have that same element of knowledge. And yet here I am. And I think the biggest thing, and it's connected to you, is courage, right? You just have the courage to put it out there. And that's, I think, the most marketable element of what it is that you're doing.
Right, right. And you know, in therapy, often what would happen would be I would make a remark. Sometimes the remark wasn't even related to where the patient was going with their story. And then they'd stop and they'd stop and they'd say, well, I really needed to hear that. That wasn't me speaking. That was the Lord giving some wisdom to my patient through me or in spite of me.
That's good.
And how many times when I left psychiatry, and that was a really hard thing to do because I'd spent so many years training and so many years practicing. When I left, I would get letters from patients saying that they remembered this one comment I made. And I would say half of them I didn't remember or didn't think they were that important, but it caused a transformation in the patient's life. Often I would tell patients, when you don't know what to pray for, say to God, increase my faith, hope, and charity, and grant me the wisdom, this is Solomon's prayer, to care for your people.
Yeah, so
Well,
good.
yeah, and it's a perfect prayer because it gets you out of the way, and you're asking for God's will and for his virtue in order to take care of his people.
Which is what he wants to do all day, every day anyway, right? That's his
Right.
main concern. I
Right.
love that. So talk with that, because I think that that is so indicative of who you are and how you've lived your purpose here on earth. And there's more and more to come. I know a lot of people are talking about passion. They're talking about purpose. There's a lot of people publishing books, especially now with ChatGPT, which we know you can't do effectively. So you can try if you're listening, but it's not going to work. Not to glorify God, that's for sure. But talk to us about how your purpose gets to, involves your relationship with Jesus. Because I think a lot of people are trying to segment them as like, Jesus is faith, hope, love. I understand that. Check that box. But my purpose is I'm going to be a doctor. And you've done this beautiful integration, and I want people to be able to understand and have revelation connected to that. Why your purpose in life always involves.
That's my, in Italian they call it the mestiere, my vocation.
Yeah.
Okay, was to be a doctor. Okay, it's what I wanted to do. But my purpose, years ago, I used to think about what did I want my purpose to be, and so I wrote down my purpose is to teach wisdom in the art of living. And just to keep it nice and simple. So in the book, you finally get to Jamil discovering his purpose in life at the very end. You can go to I think it's the last page actually.
Yeah.
Right? And then he says, I, I thought by the time we arrived, I would know what my life's purpose is. And she said, you could know if you asked the sustainer, which is the camel's name for God, right? Yes, just ask. And then, how can I know the true purpose of my life? And a voice within spoke sweetly, just look at who you carry, my child. And so that's the purpose of everybody's life. That's ultimately the purpose of everybody's life, is to bring Jesus to other people.
Yeah.